Welcome to this weekly live room here at binary.com starting at 8 a.m. UK time every Monday, of course. So thanks for joining. We're going to be looking at technical analysis and charts in just a second. Before we do that, though, we do have this important message to discuss, which is not this one. My name is Chris. I'm hosted once again by binary.com. This is the important message. The risk disclaimer: trading for exchange and global financial markets and products is considered high risk and it may not be suitable for all investors and traders. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational and informational purposes only. By continuing watching this webinar, you agree with the disclaimer mentioned here and on the binary.com website. And as always, I thank you for your attention. Great. So, if you want to get the heads up recording, email, register with your name and email address at blog.binary.com/weekly trading room. Today's goal is going to take a look at the economic calendar. We're going to take a look at the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen, and AUD USD, XEU USD. Those are the currencies and commodity we'll be taking a look at. So with that said, today we have, on the Monday the 18th, we have monetary policy meeting minutes on the Aussie. That's something to be careful of. Furthermore, this week we have Tuesday, we have our governor of the Australia speaking, USD news, pound news. Most importantly, we have Wednesday pound bank rate votes. That's a big one, and FOMC, of course, on the Wednesday afternoon in the US. Those are basically the two biggest. Plus, we have Yellen speaking and Draghi speaking on Friday. Well, with that said, let's take a look at the euro dollar, and this is the weekly chart. So I myself took a week off because of the fact that we have typically consolidation in the month of August. Now, you wouldn't see that on this weekly chart, so let me show you that first of all on the hourly chart. And I will put a line where the August started right here, a bit earlier actually, right in here. So that's where August started, and you can see price didn't go anywhere. That's typical for August. That is not uncommon, and that's why it's just a good week, a good month to take a week off or two, depending on your preferences. But it's not a bad moment to take some time and relax from trading, especially if you see price action like this. Now, this is a typical consolidation, and of course, this often happens in August. Does it always happen? No. Pound dollar, as we will see in a moment, is an exception throughout the currency market. Pound odd maybe as well. But most of the currency pairs do look something like this. Euro dollar, a typical example. So price rebounding from the tops back to the bottoms. When it hits the bottoms, it makes a spike back up. So this is a typical motion you'll see. Downside, then you'll see a bounce, a hook back, rejection back at the resistance, a move down back to support, hook back, back to resistance, downside again, and you'll see this pattern over and over again, right? So now probably back to the bottom. The question is, when will this pattern break? So we'll have to take a look at a bit higher time frame to get an idea if and when this pattern can break. This could last, by the way, this entire week again, but put into context of a 4-hour chart, we can see that this consolidation on hourly, which is, I'll put a green box around it so you can see this hourly consolidation basically that we saw in this green box, is happening within a downtrend because we see clear lower lows and lower highs with good momentum to the downside here. We have a trend line connecting the tops. So price is certainly in a good downside momentum. Therefore, if price does break to the upside, in my opinion, the 38.2 fib at 140.3470 or the 50 fib at 135.15, both of those levels are key resistance levels for further continuation of the downtrend. So I would be very interested in keeping a close eye on those two levels for downside potential. The upside, if we do break to the upside, if we do break out of that green zone to the upside, is quite limited in its potential, as you can see, because of the resistance zones that are close by. On a lower time frame, there could be still some space worth trading to the 38.2 and 50 fib. Most importantly, though, is the resistance at those levels, in my opinion. Now, if price doesn't break to the upside, but breaks below the green box and not above the green box, what could we see then? Let's take a look at the daily chart. So on this daily chart, you see clearly we have the green box here, right? That's the 1 hour consolidation we're talking about. I discussed what could happen if price goes to the upside, right? Then I'm looking for downside. But what if price doesn't do that? What if price breaks below the green box and not above it? Then we're looking at a breakout with the trend, which could be very strong. 133 is still a level to reckon with, but if you break below it, it looks like a decent probability of price falling down to 132.30 and then all the way down to 131. That's a minus 618 target plus also the weekly support here on the left. So 131, I would say, is the major target with two levels in between to be careful of. Now, all in all, this break out of this triangle that we saw here, of course, happened around, I think, somewhere in spring. And this break is still falling. We had a break here, a hook back, and continuation. We're still in that process, basically. So we have to see how far this can fall. 131, if we do break below the consolidation hourly, would be the next target, biggest target, as I said. And, well, who knows? We could still keep falling and falling, and maybe even to the next support level, which is on the weekly chart, this green level, right? So that we'll have to see. It could happen, it might not happen, but those will be bouncing spots. On a weekly chart, it will look something like this. We can see that we had a upside strong correction and a very slow third leg up or second leg up, and now we might be ready for a dramatic fall. Time will tell if that is true, but if we are breaking through support levels like these trend lines, then that could be one of the scenarios. The thing is that we really need to eventually accelerate lower and lower and break below 131, for instance. Pound dollar is a bit different. There's an exception within the market at this moment. We had a strong uptrend for more than a year, but we broke out of that channel right here where I have the green dot. Also, we're challenging now the weekly support level. So this is going to be an interesting point in time. Contrary to the euro dollar that we have, of course, a big consolidation at the moment. The pound dollar didn't have that so far, but both are in a downtrend. All right, that is what they share. The pound dollar, though, is, let's say, only recently in a downtrend, whereas the euro dollar has been in such a trend already a bit longer. Now, we are challenging a very important level here on the weekly chart. This level here, it's a weekly bottom at 166.90. Price did poke through it, but didn't close below it. So I wouldn't say that that level is broken as yet. But we are definitely seeing a lot of downside momentum. Looking at this weekly candles, you can see 6 bearish candles in a row, 5 of which have lower lows and lower highs. So if we take a look at where that last week's high was, right here, price, you wouldn't expect price to go above it. So that is a major resistance level. Actually, I should make that red. Like this. All right, that's a major resistance level. So price can retrace back up to that, but I wouldn't expect it to break. If you take a look at the hourly chart, we have a strong momentum too last week. Oh, well, this is a good downtrend. First of all, you can see on the 4-hour chart as well. Here, look at this. Good downtrend with a good angled orange trend line. So what I'm looking for, if I then zoom into the hourly chart, is putting a fib on this downside here. And well, originally I didn't expect a bigger retracement than the 38.2 fib, but this week's open is pretty bullish, so maybe price can go to the 50 fib, 167.50. If it stops there and shows rejection, I would gladly short it for downside. If it doesn't, then I am a bit cautious because then it doesn't look as bearish as I thought. Yes, we're still below this bottom. Yes, we're still below the trend line, but if we break above the 50, we're going into more of a neutral territory, in my opinion. And bullish territory would only be really above 168.50. The blue zones are neutral, and everything below 167.50 is potentially bearish. So that was my primary analysis. You know, bearishness basically on the pound dollar due to the fact that we have a downtrend. We kind of poked through that weekly bottom, and we had a recent acceleration on Wednesday last week, contrary to the euro dollar. So those are all good things for more downside. But price opened with a gap and is now moving up. So that kind of speed to the upside I didn't expect. So I'm cautious at the moment. But if price does stop at the 50 fib, then and I see the confirmation of price action, I would be looking for shorts at that point. If it breaks above the 50, then I'm back into kind of a neutral zone, and I want to see price move either below support again, or start to show significant signs of maybe a bigger bullish rebound. Dollar yen is stuck in a consolidation not only on this hourly chart, which I will show you right now, which is this one, clear consolidation, challenged the 103 level end of July, then went down to 101.50, but cannot break below or above those two levels, which is basically a 150 pip zone. 4-hour chart, daily chart, all flat. So what we need to see is price basically breaking above 104 or below 180 for a clear breakout either way, either to the upside or to the downside. So that remains to be seen. For the moment, though, we have a resistance level about 103. Obviously, the closer price gets to support or resistance, those could be potential bounces as well. And the likelihood that price doesn't break is pretty decent. We can see price hasn't broken since end of January, and this zone has lasted already more than a half a year. So it's a very well established zone. So the chances that when price gets up to resistance or down to support, that we will see a bounce are pretty high on this dollar yen. Maybe eventually, though, we'll see a break sometime this year. So the dollar yen not so interesting as the euro dollar, pound dollar in my opinion. The AUD USD, same story. Price can't break above red, can't break below green. That's 92 and 94.60. There's kind of an in-between level, 93.25, the magenta line, that signals the midpoint of that consolidation on this 4-hour chart. Daily chart, you can see it's a big zone here too, a big consolidation. Not as big as the dollar yen, but pretty big as well. So is it going to break to the downside here, or are we going to break to the upside? The upside break doesn't have much space before we bump into renewed resistances. Downside could have pretty good space. So that's pretty much it. There's really not much to add. I mean, if we look at the hourly chart, obviously you can draw some trend lines like this, for instance, and say, okay, if that trend line breaks, it could be an interesting break. That's true, but just be careful that breaks like this don't do all too well in an August consolidation. Here we have another resistance line. Those could be good hourly trend lines to keep an eye on. But mind you that if we look at the 4-hour chart, that they're pretty much stuck in between two tight levels. So even if we get a break, that break might not go too far. XAU USD, I don't want to be repetitive, but basically the same story. Stuck between 13.25 and 12.85 on this 4-hour chart. Very tight consolidation zone, and really not so much interesting going on here on this daily chart either. Looking like a contracting triangle, of which, as I said already, price has slowed down within the last couple of weeks within that triangle. So in my opinion, it's all about that triangle and the break of the triangle. And if you like to trade the bounces off of that, the bottom and top, some currency pairs might do pretty well with that strategy. This XAU USD doesn't have a very defined zone. I think it's more sloppier maybe than a dollar yen or AUD USD, but roughly maybe 13.22 as a resistance spot. Yeah, downside maybe 12.90 here, as a bouncing spot. But it's more about the triangle, I would say, and I would be cautious with the XAUSD as the most cautious maybe than all of them. Others really don't show anything else. I mean, dollar CAD went to sleep as well. The yen pairs are not really moving that excitedly as well. We can take a look maybe at a pound yen, but you can see, although there is some down slant, it isn't really moving a lot either. It's just a couple of hundred pips, which is not much for a pound yen. The pound dollar may be one of the exceptions here. On the 4-hour chart, you can see some good downside momentum bursts at times, but overall, it's just a period where we have to be careful and choose our kind of battles wisely, and be more critical about the trades we take. Maybe take less trades, less risk. Choose the trades that we do take with extra caution and maybe extra confirmation before taking those trades. That's, in my opinion, what August is all about. If you avoid losing in August, it's actually a profit. It's actually a bonus. It's actually a good thing. Not to have any loss, for instance, is already a good result, because August just is a difficult month to trade. So that wraps up today's session. A bit maybe shorter than usual, but it is because of the market environment and market conditions. I do thank you all for joining us this week, and we'll be back next week, 25th of August, on Monday, the 1st of September. Monday, the 1st of September, 2 weeks from now, I will not be here. So next week we'll have a session. Yes. 2 weeks from now, no. 3 weeks from now, yes, and onwards, yes. So only one slight break 2 weeks from now. But hope to see you next week, 25th of August, Monday. blog.binary.com/weekly trading room is where you can register to get the recap and take a look if you cannot make the live session. So thanks again. Wish you all great trading. Talk to you soon. Cheers.